And we are live. It is 5 o'clock on Friday. Back to my regular schedule for doing live streams. Currently doing a series on Irish whiskeys. Tonight, we're going to look at the entire core range of Teeling Distillery. The core range has changed just a little bit. They added one more bottle since the last time I did a series on Irish whiskey. And really, one of the things I want to do is sort of revisit these whiskeys. They do tend to open up in time, but also having taken a break for a month and then revisiting whiskeys, no whiskey for like a month, your perception of the whiskeys can change, of any whiskey can change. Doing a lot of different whiskeys over and over again as a whiskey tuber and constantly changing things, particularly if you're doing, let's say, like a long series on peated whiskeys, you can get palate fatigue or get sort of immune to certain things. So to take some time off, whether it's just a couple of weeks or a week, as they do over at the Whiskey Vault, or take an entire month off, it does yourself some good, not only to make sure you don't have any addiction problems, but also to sort of reset your palate. So getting back into whiskeys, I've noticed really approaching them in a sense as if I'm approaching for the first time. So let's kick off with a little bit of intro rock and roll, and then I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. All righty, everybody let me know what you're pouring. If you're pouring anything from Teeling, let me know. If you're drinking something else, because you don't have a Teeling on hand. So I have here to my left, I have the small batch, I have the single grain, I have the single pot still, and then I have the single malt, and then the peated single malt, which I recently did a head-to-head with the 10-year-old Lecheg, and I'm liking it a lot more than I did the first time. So I'm going to show you a quick little video. Oh, let me say hello to everybody in the group. Paul Ann was in early. Fernando, thank you much for tuning in. Namens Van. Tim Feff, thanks for tuning in. Robert G. Jim Morris. Too slow is in the chat. Alrighty. Teeling single malt. All right. Cool. So I'm not a rep of Teeling. I'm not getting paid anything. Never received any freebies. Although Teeling, if you're watching this, if you want to send me something, send me a double extra large t-shirt. Because the only Irish whiskey t-shirt I have is Kilbeggan. I would like to have another Irish whiskey t-shirts. So send me a Teeling double extra large and send it and contact me and I'll send you my address, right? Or contact Frank. And I think Frank has my address. Anyway, so I'm going to show you a little video on the history of Teeling. And as you watch this video, it's probably less than a minute. It's not that long. I'm going to start pouring myself these whiskeys and then we're going to get into them. Oops. I just goofed. All right, let's go. Hello. Teeling Distillery was established in Dublin, Ireland in 2015 by Jack and Stephen Teeling, sons of John Teeling, who founded the Cooley Distillery in 1987 and revived Kilbeggan Distillery. The distillery is located in the Liberties area of Dublin, close to where Walter Teeling, an ancestor of the family, had established a distillery on Marrowbone Lane in 1782. It is the first new whiskey distillery to have opened in Dublin in what was once a world whiskey distilling capital, with at least 37 distilleries in over 125 years. In fact, with the last of the original Dublin distilleries having closed in 1976, it is the first whiskey distillery to operate in Dublin in almost 40 years. The symbol of the brand, a phoenix rising from a pot still, symbolizes the reestablishment of the Teeling whiskey brand. Alrighty, so real short video there. Almost done pouring myself. So the core range, these are going to be younger whiskeys because of the distillery being so young. However, as you saw, their heritage actually goes back to Cooley, and some of their stock comes from Cooley. So I have a 14-year-old which I'm not doing tonight. I already opened it. I did a uncorking live when I was with I hate when my brain goes blank. Whiskey novice, last name Ingram, first name. My brain just went blank on his first name, and it's actually the name he uses is actually Verse. I think it's his middle name. Come on, someone remind me what Whiskey Novice's first name is because I just went blank. Anyway, so this is a 14-year-old PX cask, and I'll be reviewing this soon in terms of the full video. What is his first name? James Ingram. Thank you. Donner Pass. Thank you. Hey, it happens when you get older, you start to forget. I think his first name might actually be Dave. And then I think Jim or James might be his middle name, but I could be wrong on that one. Anyway, so I have some little coins here from some of my fellow whiskey tubers. I'm using it for covers. So I did an uncorking live with him, and I've had a few more drams of it. I've gotten it down below the shoulder. It's an absolutely superb whiskey. In fact, out of everything I've tasted from Teeling, it's actually my favorite. But that comes from them in terms of the owners of the distillery, but it comes from the distillery they previously owned, which was Cooley, which is bought out by Jim Beam, which is owned by Suntory. Alrighty, so I'm going to bring up the notes. Big Dog says, my proper name, recall, subsystem malfunctions often too. Yeah, you get that kind of that spinning wheel. So it's going, kind of thing. Hey, it's Friday. It's been a long week. I was on the road traveling this week. Pulled a 16-hour day on Tuesday. Long day, and I'm still been recovering from that real long day. It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. Time to chill out. And hopefully Jim will probably not see this. Alrighty. So let me pull up the notes. So all these whiskeys are natural color and non-chill filtered. In the slides that I'm bringing up, as I talk about the whiskeys, I can't fit necessarily all the notes about the whiskey on there. So just know that they're all non-chill filtered, natural color, and they're all at 46% ABV. So I couldn't fit all the notes on it. So the first one I want to get into is the small batch. So let's see, grain and malt whiskey, ex-bourbon casks, and then aged in a rum cask for 12 months, 46% alcohol by volume. Sells for about $25. Of course, price is always going to vary depending on where you live. I've actually seen this one for sale at a grocery store, Safeway's large chain. It was like, if you bought two of them, you could get them for like $18 or something like that. But you had to buy two of them. See, it's illegal to do in California. It's illegal to do a buy one get one free. You're not allowed to give away alcohol. So some places buy one get a second one for a nickel or something like that. BevMo does that sometimes. So it's illegal, at least in California, to do that. So what they do then is essentially the retail price for the bottle, cut that in half if you buy two of them. That's how you can do a buy one, get one free. All right, so the coin I got here, this is from Bourbon Bites. If you can see that. Similar to my coins in terms of it's made out of metal and it's bright and shiny. Now that I've shaved my beard off, I don't know if there's going to be much demand from my second series of coins. I will probably be coming out with another series. This is my third set. This next one will be similar to my first one. My first one, without the beard, was red and gold using the Marine Corps colors. This next series will be black and silver, and it'll look just like the current icon that I'm using. If anybody has any questions or comments or something like that, type in my name because it'll come up in orange on the chat, and then I'll know to respond. So I do remember, I haven't gone back and watched my videos, so it's been 11 months or so since I initially got into these. I do remember being really impressed with the quality and the value in terms of the price for the small batch, and for a whiskey under $30, I think it's a real high quality. I think it has some classic rum characteristics. You tend to get something a little bit tropical, something that might remind you of like coconut. There's vanilla, rice pudding with cinnamon, or a raisin rum bread or something like that. Or just it smells like rum. So it very much has a rum presence to it, but there is a dried black fruit there note of those raisins, and that cinnamon and that vanilla character is really, really, really nice. Donner Pass says, my old Series 1 coins now are correct. Yes, they are. If you have a Series 1 coin, and I only have, I think, 4 or 5 of the Series 1 coin. They were the red and gold ones. So my original one. So yeah, in terms of the baldness here, yeah, they're the same. So my next series, the back, it'll be black and silver, and then I'll do a different backing than I did on the first one. So the Bashers Ball is coming up on October 17th. It's on a Sunday. I will be there. I'm flying out on a Friday and flying home on Monday, so I'll be there the whole weekend. So I'm hoping to make some coins of the new series. I'll bring those. I'll bring some of the older ones. I'll bring the ones with the beards. I'll bring those as well, so they'll both be available. So if you happen to be at the Bastards Bowl, I'll have them available. So just track me down, and you can get one. After the Bastards Bowl, what I have left, I'm only going to have 100 of them made. I had a lot more of the bearded ones made than I did the previous ones. First series, I only had 100 made. Second series, I think I had 300 made. You save money if you buy a larger volume. So this next one, I'm only going to have 100 of them made. Fernando says, I have a bottle of the single malt. I'll bring up his little comment section here. Let's go to comments. I have a bottle of the single malt, bottled at February 2018. It could be made of whiskey from the new distillery. Oh, okay. Or preferably, or probably it's still from Cooley. Good question. So the new distillery started in 2015. It would, of course, depend on how much time they're planning on putting on it. Minimally, that'd have to be 3 years. So yeah, it could. I would actually, to find out whether it's from the new distillery or from prior production out of Cooley, I would contact them and ask them. It would be interesting if they put some sort of designation, a code on the bottle that you could then look up on the distillery, on the website, and then find out when it was made. That'd be interesting. I would like to, if some of the whiskeys are from, actually, I think the small batch originally was from the new stills. I think it was the first release from the new stills, but I could be wrong about that if I recall. Everything else, other than the small batch, I think was coming from Cooley Distillery until that their current production got old enough to release. Bird Dog says black and silver are the colors of Prince Corwin of Amber, hero of Roger Zelazny's Amber Chronicles. I have no idea what you're talking about. But it sounds interesting. Black and silver locally. If you say black and silver here, you're talking the Oakland Raiders. I'm not a sports guy, so I don't really care about that. But it would be the Oakland Raiders. It's got some nice spice notes, but mostly cinnamon, maybe some baking spices. There is there's like a white chocolate note. All right, on the palate. There's something about the first sip you have of the evening, if you're going to do a bunch. Obviously, it has the biggest impact because, it's the first little nip of alcohol. But it not only is it an extra alcohol, it makes, I think, a much bigger impression on you. So if you're going to do a whole series and you wanted to really evaluate all these and give a real official score, you're probably better off maybe half an hour before you taste these. Have some other whiskey, something slightly neutral, something just to establish a base to sort of, I'm trying to think of the correct term I don't want to say de-virginize your palate of the evening. I don't know how else to put it, but it's sort of as a kickoff for the palate. And then about half an hour later, do the actual whiskeys that you're actually going to talk about in a review. That way it's not a kaboom shock to the palate. But I like the first dram. I like the impact that it first has on your palate. So I don't mind doing that live. And I've already reviewed all these. All the videos are already up there on my channel. You may have even already seen them. So it's sweet going all the way through. The sweet doesn't taper off, which from a rum cask, rum made from sugar or molasses, a sugar byproduct, you can expect that. It's silky, which is something I like about Irish whiskeys in general, other than maybe say the single malts. I like, whether you're talking about a blend or you're talking about the pot still, which we're going to get here in a minute. I like that texture. Tobermory, though, with their single malts, also has that nice, silky, velvety, gentle, even at the higher ABV whiskeys, still maintains that mouthfeel. I really, really, really like this. If you're going to create a budget bar, right? You wanted a half a dozen whiskeys. They're going to be a high quality price ratio. And, maybe you don't have a ton of money. Maybe you're a college student, but you want some various styles of whiskey, maybe a bourbon, maybe a Scotch, maybe an Irish, maybe a Japanese. This is definitely an option to put in that budget bar. In fact, it might even be good for me to do a video on, hey, building a budget bar. Or let's say if you had, let's say like you had a vacation house, right? Some people have a little tiny cabin up in the woods when they go snow skiing in winter, and they go stay at that cabin. And you didn't have to transport some bottles back and forth, so you wanted some whiskeys on hand. Maybe you rent out that little rental to people who want to, you buy a place and then you rent it out during the ski season or whatever, or maybe something on the beach, right? So you buy an investment property to then turn around and rent out. You're there some of the year, but the rest of the year you're renting it out to get the place to pay for itself. Hey, you know what? For your guests, you're going to make a bar for them, right? You don't want to put this super good, necessarily the top end expensive stuff, but stuff they can enjoy, and it'll be part of the nice presentation of the package of the rental place. So you're going to build a budget bar. This would definitely be a good one in there. Easy to replace, widely available, and something which your guests would enjoy. You're looking for a gift, someone who's introducing them to whiskeys. I think also this is another good play. Another chats we got, comments we got on here. Grumpy Old Fart. How you doing, man? He says, when visiting the distillery before COVID, I had the Teeling Brabazon series. I'm going to bring his comment up here real quick. When visiting the distillery before COVID, I had the Teeling Brabazon. I've seen that on the internet, but not familiar with Series 1 and 2. Wish it was available in the States. That's probably anything in terms of those older bottles. And this was a special import. So, for example, this 14-year-old Pix cask, that's Total Wine and More exclusive. And they only produced 2005 bottles. This is actually bottle number 5 out of that 2005. So limited release. So I think in general, that's the way it's going to be with those older Teelings. However, of course, you can always shop online and have them shipped to you, but import costs, tariffs supposedly are supposed to no longer be a thing. But going through an auction house, and it just gets really, really expensive. Lord willing, next year, I would like to make a trip to Ireland and return trip to Scotland. So I'll probably bring back a bunch from Ireland and maybe drop in on Teeling. Seems like a young whiskey. I don't mind. Young whiskeys tend to have a certain energy to them, a vibrancy to them that I like. As long as they don't have that new make green note to them, I like them. And the whiskeys that tend to be, if they're really young, tend to really show a lot of that green note character. I run into that more with bourbons that are too young, or the climate, say California, doesn't provide enough interaction between the spirit and the oak to really extract a lot of character out of the oak. The result is you got a lot of that new makey character. But I've had some Scottish whiskeys like that as well, some budget whiskeys, and I really don't care. If I want to drink new make, I'll drink freaking new make. But I don't like that new makey character showing through. I would say one of the things about Teeling, even with these younger whiskeys, these are non-age statement whiskeys. So they're going to be on the younger side, 5 years and younger. They do a really good job with the cask treatments. They are, I would say, cask influence forward. They are putting some makeup on it to provide some more character to it and so forth, and sort of, I would say, cover up a little bit of that youthfulness. And I think they do a good job. They maintain the vibrancy of the youthfulness of the whiskey while providing a lot of different flavors in there. I think they do a good job with that. But that's the way it is. I'm super curious. Are they going to continue bottling these whiskeys at the current age, or as the distillery gets older, will these non-age statement whiskeys, will the base of the spirit start getting older as well? My hope is they will. My hope is they'll start releasing some age statement whiskeys. Even if it's 8 years, 9 years, whatever, I would like to see some age statements on these bottles. So overall, I think it's a real nice whiskey. And at that price, it'd be a really good base for making cocktails as well. Hey, Jack White, how you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in. And Erik McDaniel, if I didn't say hello already, thanks for tuning in. So Donner Pass Whiskey. We used to live a lot closer, and you didn't come visit me in Roseville. Now I'm in the wine country. Now I'm here in Sonoma County. You got to come pay me a visit. By the way, last night we had a lightning and thunderstorm, which was a little scary. Not that I'm afraid of thunder and lightning, because I'm not afraid of that, because it's always a possibility of starting a fire. So this was the image that I had on my phone. 61 degrees, and then with lightning strikes on there. So we basically all night long we had I would say light to medium rain, and the first thunderclap, it was like someone dropped a bomb, like kaboom. And then the rest of it, I know that you tuned in for a weather report, and the rest of them were just, and the lightning was pretty intense. I had the shades closed, my bed. I face away from the main window, the blinds closed, and even with my eyes closed, it was as if somebody was in the room with flash photography taking pictures. The flash from the lightning would make it through the blinds and then just in my face. So it was a little challenging to sleep last night. So I took a nap when I got home from work. But thankfully, that rain came in, which we've not had. We've had a lot of fires. If you heard in California, we've had tons of fires. I was just concerned that if we didn't get any rain, that lightning would be starting fires, and then we'd have a whole nother mess on our hands. But thankfully, we got some good amount of rain that not only, I think, kept any fires from going, but it cleared up the air. The haze that was in the sky is gone. You got nice, crystal clear blue skies. If you don't live in California, or maybe Oregon, where you have these fires, then you don't know what it's like to deal with this stuff. It just goes on for months and months and months. Really, really super happy. So tomorrow I will be out on my bicycle, right along the wine trail, getting some exercise, and then enjoying the nice, clean, fresh air. All right, next one. All righty, let me bring up the next set of notes here. All righty. All right, so next one is the Teeling Single Grain Irish Whiskey. Sells for about $35. Grain and malt whiskey, aged in ex-bourbon casks, and then rum cask for 12 months. As I said before, non-chill filtered, natural color, and bottled at 46% alcohol by volume. Donner Pass says, yeah, we got so Donner Pass is a place sort of in the Sierra foothills of California. We got some rain too, over 5,000 lightning strikes. Wow. Cal Fire has been chasing small fires all over today. Fingers crossed. From the lightning, Is that from the lightning or the stuff that was from before? We got. Did you get any rain? We didn't. We got. I know people don't want to hear about talk about the freaking weather, but we got enough rain, so we didn't get any fires here. So I don't know. Anyway, single grain. Is that right? Single grain was ex-bourbon cask and rum cask. Is that correct? Why do I feel like that's wrong? Did I screw up on my notes? Hold on. Shit. Oops, hold on. I may have screwed up on the notes on that one. I think that's wrong. That would be due to... Come on. I think that notes is wrong, and I think it's due to French oak Cabernet Sauvignon wine cask. All right, how did that get screwed up? Okay, so that's a mistake. So that's a copy and paste error. That's a copy. Okay, so it's not rum cask. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon cask. So it's ex-bourbon and rum. All right, I'm gonna remove that. All right, so it's not rum cask. I thought that was wrong. So, wow. So it's 95%. I'm getting ticked. I was having issues with my computer before. I would change something and it wouldn't save the change, and it would change it back to something else. So it's 95% corn, 5% malted barley, and has been triple distilled and matured exclusively in French oak Cabernet Sauvignon red wine cask from California. I'm going to check that again. Something ain't right. Yep. Don't know how that happened. Anyway, so it's not a rum cask. It's 95% corn, 5% malted barley, and a Cabernet Sauvignon cask from a number of different California wineries. Yeah, how did that get screwed up? So, in case you know, so as I was making the notes, and I put the bottle into the image, and then there's that banner part where I put all the notes, and I actually got kind of ticked. I'm just the trials of being a whiskey tuber. I would change what it said on there, and then it would not save it and flip it back. And I had that happen twice, and I was getting a little irked. And I was in a hurry to get this done. So that's how that happened. And then I didn't notice it when I uploaded the slide. Anyway, at least I caught it. Nobody in the comment section had to say nothing. I caught it that there was a mistake. All right, so 95% corn, 5% malted barley. And, of course, you always have to have a little bit of malted barley for the enzymes, unless you're Canadian, because the Canadians can just add the enzymes and rather take it straight from the grain. Only place I know that does that is Canada. Everybody else, we use the malted barley and get the enzymes for converting starch into sugar from the malted barley. All right. So the Cab Sauv definitely shows up. Even if I was getting blinded on this and someone said rum, I'd be like, I don't get any rum notes. I'm not getting that raisin. I'm not getting that dried black fruit note. I'm not getting that sort of sugary character to it. I'm getting black currants, blackberry, a sort of a slight black jamming note. And it reminds me very much, not in terms of the spirit character, but just the cask character. It reminds me of the Chateau Leoville Barton in terms of that character. Now, the Green Spot Leoville Barton is an Irish pot still. It's not a grain whiskey, but in terms of the cask characteristics of that Cabernet Sauvignon, it definitely reminds me of that. How did that get screwed up? The famous last words. Donner Pass says that single grain sounds really interesting, especially for us in Northern California. with the wine cask connection. Yeah, if you want further notes on this, check out my review of the single grain. Frank, who is a manager for representatives for Teeling, he actually told me where the casks came from, what wineries they came from, which I don't know if he was supposed to do that or not, but he did, because actually I got a comment from someone at the distillery about it. Anyway, I don't mean to get Frank in trouble. In fact, he even guessed. I talked to the guy. He said, "Did you get that from Frank?" I said, "Yeah." Anyway, so check out the full review for the if you want to know what wineries that I think one of them was the Frank family. I don't remember what the other two are. Basically Napa Cab. So I do get vanilla, some baking spices there. There is a slight sort of chocolate note there as well. I can get a chocolate note on some, actually just straight up Cabernet Sauvignon. Depends on the charring of the cask, because wine casks, they char those too. And it can depend on the ripeness of the grapes. But you can get sort of that chocolate character to it. Particularly if they put in a little bit of Merlot, because if you buy a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, it doesn't have to be 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. It could be 80%, 75% Cabernet minimum, and then the other 25% could be Merlot, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, or something like that, and they just call it a Cab Sauv because they want to call it a Cab Sauv rather than a Meritage or a Bordeaux-style blend. So Merlot particularly tends to have a mocha character to it as well as a black cherry character to it. So a lot of Cab Sauvignon, they can have a chocolate or mocha character, maybe because they're throwing a little bit of Merlot. All right. On the palate. So if I were to give these rescores from what I was getting before, the small batch I'd give a solid 88 points. What would it take to get over 90? This is one thing I always like to do is I don't arbitrarily pull points out of my ass. And I don't decisively pull them out of my ass. There is, in order to achieve higher, there has to be something. What keeps a whiskey or a wine from being 100%, 100 points? It would need more development. It would need more complexity. It's closer to a simple 3-chord song, and more depth, and I would say a more rounding mouthfeel to it, texture, and a longer finish. Okay. So other than that, what it has, I really, really like. I just wish it had more. So I would give the small batch 88 points, and an 88-point whiskey for under $30 is really, really good. Now let me return and do the single grain again. It has the texture of a bourbon, which you would expect. There's a little bit of a graininess there. Because my favorite wines, Pinot Noir, red wines, and Cabernet Sauvignon in terms of red wines. I'm a big Chardonnay fan as well. For white wines. So being a Cab Sauv lover sort of prejudices me to already really, really liking it. Take another sip. I don't have a huge amount of experience with grain whiskeys. Best grain whiskey I ever had was the one from Spain. It was finished in a Palo Cantado cask. And where in the heck is it? It's somewhere around here. Anyway, and I gave that one like 95 points. That one is going to be definitely within my top 10 for 2021. Where did I put it? Hold on. It's around here somewhere, and I've got 2 of them. The problem of having... Oh, here we go. It's right behind me. Too many bottles. This is the best grain whiskey I've ever had. And this, I gave 95 points. It's definitely going to be on my top 10. This is the Navajos Palazzi grain whiskey. It's a grain whiskey. It's made with corn. It's at 53.5% alcohol by volume, aged in Palo Cantado casks. Challenging to get, anywhere 95 to 120 bucks. Absolutely spectacular. It does both justice to the nature of the grain whiskey and the Palo Cantado cask. Best. So I don't have a ton of experience with grain whiskey. I mean, I don't know too many people who do just have large collections of grain whiskey. I mean, I have, Compass Box Hedonism, which is a blended grain. I mean, that's spectacular as well. But, I mean, the fact is most grain whiskeys, Scotch whiskeys, are used as filler for blend and going into blended Scotch. I don't know a lot of people who sit around and drink a lot of grain whiskeys. And it's commonly said, usually, in order for grain whiskeys to develop any real character, they need a lot more age. But you can buy, I've seen, 25, 30-year-old Scotch grain whiskey, single grains, for under $100 that 25, 30 years old. But I've not spent a lot of time, and probably one of these days, I do a whole month of nothing but grain whiskeys, single grain whiskeys or blended grain whiskeys from Scotland. But we don't hype grain whiskeys. We don't sit around and talk about grain whiskeys. It's single malt, single malt, single malt, single malt. We don't even talk about blended whiskeys. So you're either talking about single malts or we're talking about bourbons. Those are the two things. Generally, I would say that takes up 95% of whiskey reviews. It's either single malt or bourbon. It's taking up 95% of what's being reviewed, right? Maybe some Japanese, maybe some Canadians, whatever. Occasionally someone's doing a rye, right? But most of what we're doing is single malts or bourbons. So I don't have a ton of experience with grain whiskeys. That being said, so it's, when you score something, it's not just how it is in and of itself, but in the context of the category, right? So if I'm judging a Cabernet Sauvignon, it's in the context of understanding Cabernet Sauvignons, having had probably thousands of them over the years, right? It's in that context and where it's from. A Cabernet Sauvignon from California versus one from Australia versus from Bordeaux. Same thing with grain whiskeys. I don't have a big enough context of with grain whiskeys to really judge it fairly in terms of a category. However, having said that, I really like this. I particularly like the finish. In fact, I like it so much I'm taking another sip. Mark says he gets a lot of banana note on this one. I'll bring him up real quick. So I can find him here. Says he gets a lot of banana note on this one. So you know what? I could see black banana, like an overly ripe banana. That character that I'm sort of relating it to a mocha chocolate character, that black character to it. That could remind you of like a really, really ripe banana that is sort of turning black. I could get that on there. Hey, Skilly's House of Thrillers. How you doing, man? I met Scully through Nick Nimmin, and he's a fellow YouTuber. He's not a whiskey tuber, but he's a fellow YouTuber. David G. He said, "Happy Friday. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning in." So you're getting aromas, you get flavors, and you interpret it in a particular way. Because I know it's Cabernet Sauvignon, and I know I can get chocolate notes or mocha notes from a Cab or Cab Merlot blend. That's how I interpret it. But I can see how that character, particularly the way the fruity character comes across, and the vanilla character or that white chocolate character comes across, combined with the sort of that darker black fruit note, I could see putting those two together, it could come across as an overly ripe banana. I could see that. But I could see how you could see it that way, but that's not how I see it. All right. So hopefully my next set of notes will be correct. By the way, the coin I have on there, this is from the Whiskey Vault. This is a Whiskey Vault coin. And it's made out of metal. one of the things I like about this one is it has a groove going around the outside. So it sort of kind of locks in there so it doesn't slide off. Bourbon Bites kind of has one, but not quite as much. On my new coins, the one with the beard, it locks in there because of the face sticking out from the coin. It sort of locks in around that. All right, so my next one, let's bring up the next set of notes. Hopefully this one will be correct. And this will be the single pot still. All righty, Teeling single pot still. It's a 50-50 blend of malted and unmalted barley, triple distilled, American virgin oak, and then ex-bourbon cask. It is, an ex-sherry cask. Non-chill filtered, natural color, 46% alcohol by volume. Sells for about $75. Difficult getting all the notes on this one. So this is a very, very, very difficult category. I would say the small batch does really well for Teeling because of the price point and the high quality price ratio. The single grain does really well, I think, for the name of Teeling, because people don't drink that many single grains, let alone Irish single grains. So it's a unique bottling that's done very, very, very well. And so it stands out. By the way, I would probably give the single grain like 89 points. 89 points. If it had more age on it and it had more depth and complexity to it, I could take it over 90. But what it has, I really, really like, and I think it's a good price point. Now, when you're going into the single pot still, unique, Irish style of whiskey, and the competition is going to be tough because single pot still is the flag, is the banner for Irish whiskey. And if you're going to get into that category, your competition's really, really, really going to be tough because you're going up against distilleries such as Middleton, which produces obviously Redbreast, cask strength, Redbreast 12-year-old, Redbreast, Lustau, as well as all these green spot, yellow spot, blue spot, red spot. By the way, I'll be reviewing the blue spot and red spot in this series. Superb whiskey, particularly the blue spot. Even before I might review it, if you find a blue spot, I know it's expensive. It's a couple $100. If you can afford it, I highly recommend buying it. My review will be out towards the end of the series. Fantastic whiskey. Anyway, if you're going to get into that game and you're going to go up against other Irish single pot whiskeys, your competition is going to be tough. And the price on this is $75. Now, these greens, how much is the green spot go for? The regular green spot, which I actually don't have a bottle of the regular green spot. Let me see what green spot goes for. Just checking prices. I know the Leo Barton, which is a Bordeaux cask, and the Chateau Montelena, which is a Zinfandel cask. They're like $95 to $120. It's somewhere in that price range. Come on. Green spot, $50. Okay. Green spot, Irish whiskey is $50. So you're $25 over green spot. So then the question is, you're going to play in that range and you're going to get in that price category. You really better bring your game because you're going up to stiff competition. Let's check on the price of Redbreast. How much is the Redbreast? Dun-dun-dun-dun. Okay, Redbreast, 12-year-old is $55. The Lustau, $56, $55, $56. The cask strength is $64. The 15-year-old, $78. All right. You're going to charge $75 for a young Irish single pot still, and you're going to go up against Redbreast, which that's probably one of the toughest ones to go up against. that is really the one. When people think Irish whiskey, hey, of a high end, really, really high quality Irish whiskey, they think pot still and they think redbreast. And the 12-year-old or the cask strength, that's $64. So this is more expensive. Of course, prices can vary depending on where you're at. You're going up against these boys and you're charging that much. Of course, this is the retailer charging that much. If you guys have a lower price for it, let me know down below. But that's what I'm looking at Total Wine and More and how much they sell out for. The competition is going to be really, really stiff. So you better really, really bring your game if you're going to play with that category and you're going to charge that much. Now let's get into it. So, virgin oak and ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask, which with ex-bourbon and sherry cask is what you're looking at in terms of the redbreast as well. The nose isn't really jumping out at me. In comparison to the previous two, it's somewhat moderate in terms of the intensity. I do get a hint, just a whiff of the sherry cask. I get some vanilla, I get some spices. I get sort of a buttery sauce character to it. But it's not really jumping out on the palate. Well, I didn't mention it, but I was picking it up in the nose. I'm getting on the palate, and I didn't get this before. I'm getting a slight sulfury note, which doesn't offend me. Some people like it. Some people don't. It's very, 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 very slight. I mean, almost not even worth mentioning. And that comes from the sherry cask. So it's all right. It's not quite matchstick, but it's there. I do get a little bit of the malt character coming there, even though it's a 50-50. I like the texture of it. I wasn't planning on doing this, but let's take the Redbreast 12-year-old and let's go head to head. Why not? All right. So Redbreast 12-year-old on the spot, on the fly, going up against the Teeling pot still. Tough competition going on here, folks. Could just do a whole video just on this, but I don't want to be prejudiced, but I suspect I already know who's going to win on this one. By the way, this glass was given to me by Barry, who's actually probably live right now. He just resumed at 4:00 doing his live pub crawl stories and sips. These are these kind of really funky looking glasses. To be honest with you, I don't care for the glass. He's a great guy. He's sort of the aqua vitae, Roy. He's kind of like the aqua vitae of the Irish whiskey world. Anyway, and he's been on Roy's channel. Kind of weird glasses. A little too funky for me. Again, not a big nose. But the palate delivers. There's that character, Rex and Daniel. They call it a butter cookie character, shortbread character. I don't see it as shortbread, but I understand where they go. I tasted a bunch. I went after they called it having shortbread notes. I went and bought some shortbread, and I tried that cookie nuts. I tried it, and I didn't think that's quite accurate. I come across to me as more of a butter. You're making a butter sauce that you're going to put on something, and so it's somewhat reduced butter sauce. That's what I get. But we're in that same ballpark, right? In terms of flavors. Apples, pears, apple pie character, cinnamon. There's a richness there. The creamy texture there. I'm getting more of a malty character on the Teeling. I get much more of a rich, buttery character on the Redbreast. That's only going to come with age. It's going to come with age. It just needs more age. It's less expensive than the Teeling. Easily beats the Teeling. The Redbreast takes me over 90 points because of the complexity. There is a sensuousness, a seductiveness to the character on the mouthfeel on the palate with the Redbreast. The flavors, if you were just like write down flavor notes, are not hugely dissimilar in terms of like apples and pears and baking spices, and those kind of characters are not radically dissimilar. It's the quality of how those flavors are delivered and the mouthfeel and the texture. And there's a richness to the Redbreast. So if you're going to go pot still, I would say, yeah, definitely go for the Redbreast. I admire that they're going to get into that category and that they're producing one, do something traditionally Irish, but I think it needs more time. I think it needs more time. And they need to take the price down by at least $10. $10. Let's see what Big Dog has to say here. Big Dog, is that a Tua glass? I don't know what it's called. I've been wondering about those, but you seem underwhelmed. It's odd. I just described it. It doesn't. I don't like the way it has it. Look at the bottom of this thing. I'm trying not to spell it. It's just this weird triangular shape. I don't like the way it feels in the hand. I have a Riedel Spey Rocks glass. I love the way that thing feels in my hand. I use the Glencairns more because of the shape and everything else, that they're more conducive to analyzing aromas and flavors. But in terms of the way something feels in my hand, I like the Riedel Spey glass. It's funny, in the whiskey tribe, Daniel and Rex did recently, last week, I think it was, a series on rocks glasses and what's the best rocks glass. And they didn't do the Riedel. I commented on it, hey, check out the Riedel. It has a nice diamond cut to it. So if you're using a non-chill filtered whiskey, like a high ABV whiskey, non-chill filtered, and it clouds when you put it on ice in a rocks glass, that diamond cut of the glass hides that. I like the way it feels. It feels weighty. It looks elegant. So I really like that glass. Anyway, I don't like this. I don't like the way this feels. It feels like it's broken. It's as if someone broke off parts of it. I don't like the way that feels. The fluted or the sort of outbursting of the top there doesn't do anything for me. This just feels really awkward. I didn't pay for it. Got it for free. Thank you very much, Barry. Appreciate it. But I would never use this as my daily drinker or something to analyze. I just don't particularly care for it. So I don't recommend buying them. I do recommend the Redbreast if you haven't already. So, total winner with the small batch, total winner with the single grain. These are, I think, playing to their strengths. The single pot still needs time. It needs to grow up. It needs some maturation. Don't get me wrong. It's good. If someone gives you a bottle, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to like it. But in terms of purchasing, you're going to be spending more than you would for some other more notable and I think higher quality single pot still. And that's how you know I'm not being paid to do this series. Again, of course, I always have to say this is my personal opinion, but that's a given that everything in there is my personal opinion. But I'd put serious money on it. I'd bet $1,000. Take 20 of my fellow whiskey tubers who are very experienced and have a competition. Hands down, I would put $1,000 down that all of them are going to choose the red breast over the Teeling. Alrighty. So the next one, by the way, the coin I have on here, this is Mash and Drum, number 48. So Jason Calori, Mash and Drum. Hopefully he's going to be at the Bastards Ball. Hopefully he'll make it over there because I'd like to meet up again. All right, so our next one, let's change the slide. Go on to the next one. Next one. We're going into the single malt. Oops. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I forgot to remove the whited background. All right, so I'm going to read this. Son of a gun. So this is what it looks like before. I normally would then remove the background off of this so that it would be clear, and all you would see is the bottle and the banner. But I screwed up. I was making these in a hurry. All right, we'll just read this and then I'll remove it. Ex-bourbon cask. It's triple distilled ex-bourbon cask. Port, sherry, Madeira, Chardonnay. They say white Burgundy, but it's a Chardonnay from Burgundy. And Cabernet Sauvignon, bottled at 46% alcohol by volume, sells for about $60. All right. So we're looking at 3 fortified wines, a Chardonnay, and a Cab Sauv. So I recently did a re-review on that one. In fact, kicking off this current series on Irish whiskey, that's what I kicked it off with. And I even though I've already recently re-reviewed this one, really like this one. And it wasn't until after I had previously recorded that. My previous video was not on there. I just removed it so my two videos wouldn't have a competition with each other. And I think my second review is probably more accurate because it's been open for a while. Chardonnay is a white wine. Those 3 fortified wines, and then you have that really dark tannic Cabernet Sauvignon. Wouldn't the Chardonnay, a white wine, get lost in all that? If you were tasting the wine side by side, the Chardonnay would get lost in the tasting. However, as I mentioned in the video, you can use a white wine to elevate, lighten up the character of a red wine and actually bring it sort of an aromatic lift. But typically, what they're usually going to use in wine making, if you're going to use a white wine to elevate a red wine, you're going to use something very aromatic. In the Côte Rôtie in Northern Rhone, they take Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a very dark, heavy red wine, and then they use Viognier. Viognier is a very floral, super floral wine. And so it makes sense to use a Viognier to give a lift to a Cabernet Sauvignon in a blend. So if Teeling is watching this, here's just to try it out. Get yourself Viognier aged in New Oak is common, particularly from California. Get some Viognier casks. Try some Viognier casks and try that with those fortified wines and casks and the Cab Sauv cask, and see if that doesn't do something very distinctly different and maybe even more elevated and more enhanced than a Chardonnay cask. I like Chardonnays, apples and pears, and depending on the climate, you can get some tropical notes. If it's very inland, Burgundy wouldn't be that character. A white Burgundy, you'd get apples and pears. Depending on the oak character, you might get some vanilla, baking spices. You get some real nice minerality out of white Burgundy. California, you're going to get more malolactic fermentations. You're going to get more buttery notes, typically out of California. But that's a white Burgundy, not a California. Anyway, so if you want to get more of an aromatic lift from a white wine cask, I recommend going with a Viognier. That's my 2 cents on that one. All right. I really like this one. I think it's unique. I think it's very distinct in its category as a single malt. Wow. I'm actually getting something. I'm getting something on the back end that I didn't get before. That's funny because it's funny that I'm getting more tropical notes on the back end. Almost a pineapple with vanilla. I get those apple and pear notes. But Madeira can give you tropical character notes as well. Sort of pineapple, guava. But you're also going to get some oxidative notes from Madeira and sherry cask, because it's a, and I did the whole series on sherry and sherry cask finished whiskeys. You can get a little bit of nutty character. I do kind of get that a little bit. There's almost like a walnut character on this as well. This is a really, really, really nice whiskey. Price range, I don't remember what the price was. Let's take it back up, see what the price was on it. In terms of a single malt. Excuse me, $60. $60 for a single malt. Price wise, I don't know. I think it's probably about on spot. I'm running through my head other single malts that I would like more, that would cost less. If you can get this for $50, $55, I would say it's definitely a buy. I like the depth. I like the complexity. I like the layers of flavor. I think it's a really nice single malt. I think single malt is a tough competition. I think most people, when we think single malt, we don't think Irish. We think Scotch. And that's sort of the reason why when I had Jim Ingram on from Whiskey Novice last week, was the reason why we talked about single malt, as long as a gazette and other things. Because it's a tough category for the Irish to compete with Scotch. And I think single malt in the United States is a growing category. One I think is going to do really, really well. I know Bart over at Scotch Test Dummies is in love with them. I think Balcones is doing some fantastic things with single malts. So once American single malts have a distinctive identity, legal identity for what constitutes a single malt, and then once they get that ratified, then I think the next real competitor, maybe not in quantity, perhaps in quality, is going to be the American single malt, at least a lot more than, say, the Irish single malt. Lord Girth, definitely, Balcones single malts are quite something. They're quite impressive. They can be a little smack upside the head, a little bit overbearing to the uninitiated, but they're fantastic. So Grummy O'Fart says, more specifically, Viognier Condrieu. Yes, Condrieu is very expensive. I would get a Viognier cask from California. There's a lot more Viognier growing in California than there is in the Northern Rhone. And Condrieu, although Condrieu is far superior than California Viognier or Australian Viognier, but Condrieu, I think in terms of quantity of casks available, they'd be a little more challenged. They'd be better off price-wise as well as availability getting Viognier from California. But that's my 2 cents. The Draminator is on. Let's see what the Draminator has to say here. Yep, you're totally right. The Spey glass is nice for having a dram, just like the Macallan bottle. It fits the hand perfectly. Absolutely. And I got my Spey glasses from Max Riedel. I've met him a couple of times because being part of involved in the wine industry, so I've gotten a number of wine glasses from Max Riedel, the current reigning heir apparent of the Riedel dynasty, like 13th generation Austrian glass producers. Anyway, real nice guy. I met his father as well. His father, quite a different character. Anyway, but really, really nice. Let's see. Jaime says, have you had someone just mentioned it earlier, the Brabazon? No, I don't think it's available here in the United States. But if I ever make my way to Ireland, I will keep my eyes open for it. I can get all 4 bottles discounted for around $340, but I can't. But if I still find it pricey. $340. I would want to taste it first. $340. I would probably want to taste it first. That's about discounted for $340. That's a bit much. That's a bit much. Alrighty. So the single malt's really, really nice. I think it's shoulder to shoulder with some with some Scottish single malts, but it's a tough competition. Score wise, I'm going to go solid 87, 88 points. I think it's really, really, really good. Thus far, out of the first four, in terms of quality price ratio and what they offer, I'm most impressed by the small batch and the single grain whiskey, which are basically talk about an Irish blended whiskey and an Irish single grain categories. When we think of Irish whiskey, we generally don't think of. All right, let me drink a little bit of water, and we're going to finish it up with the Black Pits. Now, let me bring the notes up for the Black Pits. Hopefully I didn't screw up my notes on this one. I can't believe I did that. So I put together these notes about an hour ago. I've just been busy. And so when you're in a hurry, you're going to screw up. I'd have been better if I prepared all the stuff like last weekend and gave myself time to review and double check, make sure everything was kosher. Anyway. All right. So the Black Pits. So the Black Pits, and by the way, the coin I had on that one was from Aquavitae. Aquavitae. One of his older coins. Roy Aquavitae. This one, I have one from Bill, the Whiskey Dictionary. This is one of his older coins because it has the Booker's thing on the back. I think he's come out with a couple of different series. So this is the Black Pits. Now, my previous review of the Black Pits is still up on my channel. My initial review, but I recently just posted this week on Wednesday. Black Pits up against Lechick 10-year-old. I was not impressed with Black Pits the first time I had it because I didn't think the look of the bottle, matched the profile, the character of the whiskey. And I mentioned this in the video. I think the peat was coming across as just a bare spot of black pepper. And even though I got it down to the shoulder, that's still what I was getting on the bottle. Typically with a peated whiskey, and Jim and I talked about this last week. I asked him, so what do you typically get when you first open a peated whiskey? He says, you basically get a blast of peat. And it takes time to get other characters, to get fruit character, to get spice character out of it. And so for a peated whiskey to not at least give you a nice oomph of peat, and when it says Black Pits, you think of a black tar pit, something dark and like that, right? It comes across as it's not really, the image you get doesn't match the whiskey. So, months and months later, returning to this one night, hey, I thought, I'll pour myself some, just try it out. And I was like, whoa, wow, this has really opened up. So this is the first time I've had a peated whiskey that the peat character was delayed, that came so late. That's very, very, very unusual. So that you're getting more than just a little spot of pepper. And if you saw my video, and again, mood could be driving it, but I liked the fresh fruitiness of the Black Pits. I liked the darker peat and oceanic character of the Lechick more. I wish I could take the fruity character of the Black Pits and yet take the oceanic and darker peat character of the Lechick and put those two together. That's what I want. That's what I want. The Black Pits, I like the fruity character more, coming from the Saturn's cask, but I like the peat and the briny character, almost, Isla-like character of the Lechick. All right, so Peated Barley, triple distilled, ex-bourbon, ex-Saturn's cask. And I explained Saturn's cask in the video. non-chill filtered, natural color, 46% alcohol by volume. In all these whiskeys, the non-chill filtered, the natural coloring, you have to take our hat off and salute Teeling Distillery on that alone, and hope that they will have a positive influence on their fellow whiskey producers, right? That we will talk about. You'll talk about to your great grandchildren. We remember back in the day, they used to put this stuff in whiskey. It was called E150. And oh, Grandpa, what's that? And they said, well, it was a sugar derivative that would make your whiskey look darker. Grandpa, why would they want to put E150? That's what we'll talk to our grandkids, right? Why would they want to do that? Well, it would go on and on and on and on. Grandpa, they tend to like tell long stories. Anyway, eventually one of these days there'll be a thing of the past, and they'll talk about, oh, there was this guy named Ralphie, and he used to complain about it all the time. And he would pound the table and pound the pulpit against E150, and then eventually everybody got wise and stopped putting that crap in their whiskey. All right. Anyway. So there's sort of the citrus character, lemon. There is almost an orange character. There's a pineapple character. There's just this fresh, nice, fresh, fruity character. And the peat and the smoke is kind of like playing this frame around it. So imagine here is that fresh, fruity character, tropical character, and then it's framed by a medium to medium minus intensity of smoke and peat, so that the smoke and peat isn't in your face. It just provides this nice sort of another layer of aromas and flavors, and this nice frame to the whiskey. And this is really nice and nice. The peat and smoke, when you put it in ice, the peat and smoke actually elevates a little bit. The fruitiness is still there, but the peat and smoke actually intensifies. But I find that true in Ardbeg, Laphroaig, and all those. If you put those in ice, you lose some of the fruit character, and and so consequently, the smoke and the peat actually becomes a little bit more intensified. The same thing happens with this, but I like that. It's got some nice vanilla. There's a nice vanilla creamy character that shows up on the back end. It's pretty much sweet all the way through. Without the smoke and peat character, I think this would be too fruity, too sweet. The peat smoke character, almost a slight chocolatey character now, kind of gives a nice counterbalance to the intensity of the sweet character. So I actually think it works really, really, really well. So Roy does his reviews, Aquavite does his reviews at the recycling bin. He's already gone through the bottle by the time he's reviewed it. I think he drinks a lot more whiskey than I do, or he maybe has a lot more friends to share it with, or one or the other. This is actually, I kind of wish I had gone all the way through this bottle before reviewing it, but whatever. It was new. I wanted to get a video out on it, be an early bird in terms of reviewing it. But I would say the price, $75. That's a hard one. Lechik, $57. Ardbeg, $54. Ardbeg 10, $54. It's got an age statement on it. It's really hard to compete with that. I think it's a unique. There's not a whole lot of peated Irish whiskey out there. I think branding and the modeling and the image of it is fantastic. They did a great job with the bottle. But that's tough. $75 is tough. We always want whiskey to be cheaper, but I'm wondering how it's doing competitively in the market. I would take it down at least $15. Take it down $15, and it would be a better value play. You're getting a little bit more competitive with the Ardbeg 10s, the Lechik, at Talisker, right? I think Talisker is another one. You could go head to head with this one and do a comparison. I don't have a Talisker 10-year-old. The Taliskers that I do have, I have the 18-year-old And then I have a distiller's edition. It would just smack this upside the head. So I'm not going to do a comparison with that one. But in terms of the character of the peat, it's somewhat similar to a Talisker. And actually, I take it back. I do have a Talisker tin. That's funny. I just forgot. But I have this series. Let me see if there's one left. This is like these sort of small little bottles. And this has the Talisker 10. This has Talisker 10, the Distiller's Edition, and the 57 North, which has been discontinued. Let's see if I have any other 10 left. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right. I'm going to do another head-to-head. Was not planning on this. I'm going to go Talisker 10 versus Black Pits. I'm going to put a little bit more of the Black Pits into the glass. I forgot. It's funny. I forgot that I had this sample series. I was thinking full bottles. I don't have a full bottle of the Talisker 10. Let me get this out of the way. Let me take the notes off here real quick. There we go. All right. I'm running out of glasses here. Give me a second. I'm going to go grab another glass. Give me 1 second. All right. So there is the Black Pits. Here's this one. I need another glass. Give me a second. A glass here real quick. Nope, don't want to use that one. Use that one. Is that gonna work? Yeah. All right, here we go. There we go. All right. There we go. Had to get another glass. All right, so head to head, Talisker 10 versus the Black Pits. Definitely darker. Got a lot of whiskey here. Feeling pretty good for a Friday. Talisker 10. So these are actually now. I wish I had bought more of these. So the 57 North. If you can find a bottle of the Talisker 57 North, it's superb. They discontinued it. If you can find it, buy one, and let me know. If you don't want to buy it, let me know where it is, and I'll buy it. Absolutely fantastic. So really, really cool series as a gift. The shop there in Roseville, where I used to live, he had a bunch of them. I wish I'd bought another one because that's a fantastic whiskey. All right. Let me put this up the side real quick. And let's go Talisker 10 versus Black Pits. So color-wise, it's a lot darker. The fruit character is just radically different. You're getting more stone fruits and apples on the Talisker. Pear peach. The smoke character is different. It's a little bit more campfire-ish. But that black pepper is there. Vanilla, the spices. Wow. Yeah, so the casking is so different. It's hard to compare these two. How much does the Talisker 10-year-old go for? I want to look that up real quick. Oops. Talisker 10. Talisker 10 is $57. Black Pits, $75. There's almost a $20 difference between the Black Pits and the Talisker 10. That's tough. That's tough. Honestly, on the nose, I like the Black Pits. I like that fresh, fruity character and the way it's distinguished and stands out from the peat. But that's a personal preference. That's not a qualitative thing. That's a preference thing. And there's a difference. There can be a style of wine, a style of music, a style of a movie that I can go, that's a high quality musician. It's a high quality wine, high quality whiskey. That's a very well made, very well edited movie, even if it isn't my style. And so I can still rate something very highly, even if it isn't my personal preference. That's how you become objective in your evaluations. That's just not just a matter of whether you like it or not. It's if you can recognize the craftsmanship and the artistry, even if it's not your particular personal preference. All right. All right, on the palate. Oh. It's richer. So whereas the Black Pits is fruitier, fresher, it's lively, it's tropical, it's citrus and tropical. This is richer. This is darker. Almost chocolatey character to it. The peat smoke character, it has more depth. These are just two very, very different whiskeys. Two very, very different whiskeys. Because of the type of casks that are used, the profiles are so different. It's hard to go head to head with them. I would prefer if the two had similar casks to be more of a fair fight. I'm trying to see what the ABV is on this. The print is so dang small. What is the ABV? From the mouthfeel, I'd say it's at least 46%, if not higher. Okay, here we go. 45.8. All right, so 45.8 versus 46. Close enough. Close enough. Objectively, I would probably, on most occasions, particularly in the wintertime, going to prefer the Talisker 10 because I like the depth and the richness of it. It's more of a cold weather peat. Enjoying it. The freshness and the liveliness of the Black Pits, I think it makes it work well in warmer weather, California weather, and it works well on ice. They're both great. I think they're both great whiskeys. However, I'm going to give the preference, the upper hand to the Talisker. And it's give or take $20 cheaper. $20 cheaper. I'm going to I would probably go at least 90 points. I think it's really, really well done. The Black Pits, I'm going to go 88. I'm probably go like 88 points. I think they're both really, really, really good. I like them a lot. They're on a warmer day. If I wanted a peat smoke character, I was going to put it on ice. I would actually probably go towards the Black Pits. If I was just in the mood for something a little lighter and fresher, a little more vibrant, maybe something it has a slight floral character as well. Think of like honeysuckle floral character. I would probably go that way as well. However, winter cold days, that kind of a setting, definitely Talisker hands down. So overall, I'm probably going to give the upper hand to the Talisker, and it's cheaper. Fernando says, 45.8% alcohol by wine. Yep. So really, really great stuff. But Talisker's been around a lot longer, and they're doing some really, really good stuff. Really, really nice whiskeys. Does it have any chill filtered, non-chill filtered, natural color? I don't know. I'm not going to look it up at the moment. So, all right. So we've been going for almost an hour and a half. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up. Give it a like. If you're watching this on the replay and you have any questions, comments, definitely leave them down below. If you're watching this and you've not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Overall, I'm much more impressed with Teeling now than I was when I first went through these whiskeys. I really, really like them. As I said before, the whiskeys I'm going to recommend from Teeling. Hey, if you check out Teeling, And the first ones I'm going to recommend is going to be the small batch. It's going to be the single grain, even though it's a blend and a single grain. Categories that people maybe aren't necessarily all that big on. Those are probably going to be the first two I would recommend, followed by the single malt. However, and my video will be coming out this next week. It'll come out next Wednesday. My review of the 14-year-old PX cask. Kaboom. Freaking awesome whiskey. If you can get that, definitely would jump on that one. That could make my one of my top 10 for 2020. Just can give you a little hint on that one. So absolutely fantastic. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And if you haven't already, if you haven't considered becoming a Patreon, support this channel. Just become part of the group. I would greatly appreciate it. And let's go out with a little bit of rock and roll. Cheers. Hope you all have a great weekend. Sanjiva.